Good morning. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022, and coming to you from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Yakima, Washington, this is the Best Lamb Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamb. With me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Parker.
How come you're the only one that gets applause?
I don't know. You got to tell that guy to hold the sign up earlier.
I don't know. It's weird. I feel like I've done that wrong. I feel like this whole thing is set up wrong.
You do your thing pre-intro.
Yeah, but I don't
like
get
you do the intro, and then you
That's
introduce me. No one introduces you. You introduce the show.
That's true. What we need is an announcer. We need like a Johnny Gilbert. We need a guy that says, yeah, right? I need to get that.
I kind of wish it sounded like a lazy baseball announcer.
Then we can.
Tonight's attendance.
We should get. Have you ever see Brockmire? The show Brockmire with Hank Azaria.
Seen it, but I hear it's really good.
Quite funny. He's an announcer. That ends up in the middle of nowhere. He had a meltdown on the air, and he goes to this minor league team in the middle of nowhere, and he is great because he's not afraid to say anything. It's fantastic. Anyway, neither here nor there. We're streaming on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Lamb Sports. We're on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show, and you can send us an email, lambsports@gmail.com. Please check out our webpage. You can find links to the past shows. The current trivia question is always on www.lambsports.com. The first part of the show, as always. I think as always. I don't know. I say as always when I have you with me as always. But I really need to change when I say, hey, the first part of the show is as all. You know what I mean? I use that phrase too much. Am I wrong?
No.
Okay. All right.
I don't think it's bad. I think it works just fine.
It rings in my head the rest of the show, as always.
As always.
Anyway, brought to you by the first part of the show is brought to you by The Range in Yakima. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting destination. At 34,000 square feet, The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training, retail sales and supplies, full gunsmithing and repairs, custom builds, and Cerakote services, all under one roof. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., Sunday 11 to 5. Go see our friends at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima. Phone number is 509-571-1449. And make sure you mention the Best Lamb Sports Show. The Range, educate, equip, and empower. So, we're going to talk about the NBA All-Star Game. That's what we're going to start with. Yeah, we didn't even talk about everything we're going to talk about. We're talking about the NBA All-Star Game. We're talking about Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about NFL football / XFL football / USFL football / TSL football. And then we may have time for NCAA basketball. We are going to talk about NCAA basketball in two different formats today. Some good news and some news. But anyway. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All-Star Game was Sunday. And at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland. Home of LeBron James, I guess. I don't know. That's not necessarily true, but
he thinks. Is it called the Q anymore?
No, it's the Rocket Mortgage.
That's tough.
They change every week, so I don't know.
They do not. They change once every 10 years. It just happens we came in on it.
Yeah, but
when LeBron got there, it was called the Q, and when LeBron came back, it was still called the Q.
I think it was Quicken Loans Arena. Is what it was.
That's why it was called the Q. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but no, what I mean is there's 30 basketball teams, right? And 32 football teams, and there's all these stadiums, and it seems like there's one changing every week. No matter what it is, it could be baseball, it could be football, it could be whatever, but it always seems like there's always a new. Every year they open up and hey, these 4 have changed names because the old sponsor doesn't want to be the sponsor anymore. I don't know how much it costs. You know what? That's going to be one of our research projects. How much does it cost to become a sponsor? And can we have Best Lamb Sports Show Stadium?
Best
right?
Lamb Sports Show Stadium.
Yeah, I'm willing to invest at least a couple $100 in this. So I figure.
David Stone Fieldhouse.
I like it. I think it's great.
I think you could just call it The Range. I don't think you have to put a field house or an arena.
No.
Or anything like that. It's just The Range.
I think if it was a football field, it'd be great.
That would be good. Although I feel like NFL teams would go away from things involving firearms.
Probably.
They'd steer out of that a little bit.
But you can hear it right now. Bills, Steelers at the range.
Because I guarantee you Smith & Wesson has tried to get Houston Stadium before. or something like that. There's a firearm company out there that's been like, we want to name these naming rights. And they're like, not today.
Right? Well, I mean, and think about it because...
There's also no Jack Daniels Stadium.
Yeah, because in the USFL is a classic example because Tampa Bay Bandits have guns, and so do the Houston Gamblers, I imagine, because you don't go gambling without. You've seen
Well,
all the
and
westerns,
the
right?
the Texans have guns.
Yeah, I mean, I figure somewhere in Texas you'd have to be able to do it, but
Yeah,
nowhere else. Anyway, we're off topic a little bit. What are you gonna do?
that's part of the fun.
It's what we do. Go. So Team LeBron defeated Team Durant 163 to 160.
Right.
Golden State Steph Curry was named the MVP with 50 points, which is amazing in an All-Star game. But there's no defense, so there's that.
Yeah.
He was
At least not until the last however many minutes.
the last quarter.
Yeah.
Right,
Until people want to win.
Right. And they realize they're in range to win.
And they realize they're in range. But
Yeah.
somehow these games, despite all that, these games are still like neck and neck usually going into the final couple minutes when both teams go, wait a minute. We don't want to lose.
Here's the research we need. How many empty possessions? How many turnovers? And are they just because some guy was trying to bounce pass it up off the backboard to a guy to dunk it? Is that the reason why there was a turnover? Because it didn't work out. There's no steals. There were some block shots in this game. There were some steals, quote unquote, but I mean they don't play defense. So your empty possession would have to be you making a mistake, pretty much. So
right.
Every time they go down, they score, which means the game doesn't get out of hand. That's all I'm saying. It's always gonna be close. So
it's just interesting because one, it's kind of hard to find All-Star game stats.
Well, I have them here.
You can find them. You can find. Oh, so who had the most turnovers?
Oh, see, that's a good question. Yeah,
well, you just said.
So there were 30 turnovers in the game. Team LeBron had 16 and Team Durant had 14. So
it's not that much more than a regular game, though.
No, it should be less, is what I'm saying, than a regular game.
Oh.
But it might not be. But what I'm saying is the reason they get turnovers, and you've seen it in every All-Star game, is some guy is trying to do the alley-oop from half court, and it hits the rim instead of whatever, and the other team gets the ball. It's turnover. So that doesn't really count as a turnover in my book. A turnover is when you just make a bad pass or there's a steal or you get even a block shot is technically a turnover, but they don't list it that way in the NBA. Block shot's a block shot because you still get a shot attempt. And in case you're wondering, Team Durant had one block shot, and Team LeBron had 6 block shots. Steph Curry blocked 2, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting, the numbers. Joel Embiid was the leading scorer for Team Durant. He had 36 points, 10 rebounds, on 14 of 20 shooting. And you would think these guys, who had a bad game? And you wouldn't think that when there's so little defense, there would be bad shooting, but there was some bad shooting.
Sometimes the ball doesn't go in.
Chris Middleton was 1 of 8 from the floor.
Chris, it's because that ring was in his hand. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't great. Trae Young was 5 of 13. But to be fair, it's his first All-Star game. Were there nerves? Was he nervous? I don't know.
I could care less about Trae Young's nerves. You do that. This is your identity.
Yeah.
Is shooting the ball. If you can't shoot the ball in a game that doesn't matter for charity when no one's playing defense,
it's true.
It doesn't matter.
It's you're right. You're right. But it's one of those things where you get kind of starstruck if you're a kid, because these guys he watched play. He was in high school watching these guys play NBA basketball.
Yeah, but he doesn't get to walk around doing his ice cold shiver thing and then miss shots. I don't forgive you for that. You want to be a loudmouth. I'm going to judge you when you start missing.
Yeah, that's true. Clear.
If you're a cool, I don't judge Chris Middleton for missing.
No, because he doesn't show off. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's not a show off.
He's still a 20-something a point game, points per game guy in the NBA. I don't judge him for it, but I'm gonna judge Ice Trae because he's decided to be Ice Trae.
Ice Trae.
Yo.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: Do you like the format? Do you like the draft format where the LeBron and Durant are the drafters, and Durant didn't even get to play because he's hurt, but do you like that format where they draft the teams, or would it be better if it went back to East-West, or what?
I don't think it makes things better or worse to have it this way. I don't think it changes anything. I think that if you liked the East-West, you were probably also a fan of everyone wearing their own jerseys, because that was kind of cool to see all the dark, home jerseys on one side and all the light, away jerseys on the other side, or whatever it was. So that was kind of cool. But other than that, I don't think it changed or made a difference. I mean, you watch the East games, you watch the East people play with the East people all the time.
It's true.
Play around the East people all the time. Very rarely do they get to play with somebody from the West? When is Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant going to be on a team with LeBron James? Kyrie Irving, we know, but when is it going to happen? It doesn't happen that often, so it's kind of nice to see him change it up and around. But again, no one's playing defense. It doesn't really matter. Like it could be hand selected by random people, and it would still come out just about the same.
Yeah.
You would still headline it as Team LeBron and whatever. Or if it was in East versus West, it would still be Team LeBron versus Team Durant. So it wouldn't matter.
And I don't know how they select who's in the All-Star game. Is it still fan vote? Do they still do that at all?
So I think it's partially fan vote and partially a writer's vote. But they need to take the damn fan vote out of there. People are stupid as hell.
Well, I think what should that's true. I think what should happen is they should announce the writers or whoever. I mean, you can call it right. I don't like the writers also being in there. I think it should be the teams nominating the players. But I think each team, because still has every team gets representation. I think in the All-Star game, one player. So everybody should put out a player, right? This is our guy, and then the fans should get a vote on the remaining and get one guy. One guy gets elected by fan vote that isn't already in the thing. You can't vote for these guys because they're already in. Steph Curry, LeBron James, all those people. It'd be more interesting to see who's your next guy.
Right.
After we list our top, after we put in 16 teams or 15 teams from the West, 15 guys from the West, who's the 16th guy that gets voted in?
Well, I've always wondered why it's not like a team submission.
Right.
Like there's an all-star on every team.
Yeah.
Like it just about, unless you're Orlando. Hey-o. But you can just have every team submit their all-star.
Right.
Yeah, it sucks that you're not going to get Draymond, Clay, and Steph in there.
Yeah.
But guess what? Dame's going to get in.
Yeah.
Or, that sort of thing. I think that's kind of the issue I run into with it is that, I mean, if you could, and you just wanted to go pure all-stars, you could probably do 10 guards from the West.
Right.
And then just fill in a couple other people.
And
it's like, that's boring. Like, every team should get a representation.
That's the other thing they do is they limit it by position. And because you got to have X amount of forwards and X amount.
That's because of this issue that there are so many good guards.
Right. Well, and if you look at what the position listing is, here's number one. I will tell you that there was listed positions. There's only one power forward in this game, and that's Giannis.
Yeah, but he's the size of a freaking center.
He's a center. He absolutely is. But I mean, LeBron James is technically a power forward.
LeBron James is. Actually, LeBron James is. Yeah, he's like right there on that line between small forward, power forward size.
But he's big. I'm not saying he's tall. He's like 7 foot, but he's 6'9" or whatever. And he's big, and he is a power forward.
But he's as fast as any guard.
Sure.
And he shoots as well as any guard. He's been doing that his whole career.
Well, yeah, because Chris Middleton is listed as a small forward, and he's a big guy too. When you haven't been next to him, he's wide. He's a wide body.
Pretty good guy.
Yeah, and so only 2 centers listed. 3. I'm sorry. But, 4, I guess, technically. Oh, no, Rudy Gobert's in there, too.
Yeah, Jokic.
Oh, there's 5.
Jokic is a true center.
Karl Anthony Towns listed as, who won the 3-point shot contest, by the way. So if you got a center winning your 3-point shooting competition.
I will say, that's incredible. That just goes to show how different, I mean, would a center have ever won the 3-point contest, we'll say 20 years ago?
No.
Then definitely not any time before that.
No, not for sure. I mean,
20 years ago, you start teetering towards shooting capable centers, but even then, you're still talking about Timmy D was never out here heaving up threes in the 3-point contest, and that was like 10 years ago.
No, it wasn't. It wouldn't. You'd never seen a center win. I mean,
so that's incredible. But
they're more athletic.
Jokic, Anthony Towns, both these guys can shoot threes, and Giannis, who isn't the center officially, but Giannis and Joel Embiid. They're both the size of centers. They can both shoot threes. Both of these guys could have been in the 3-point contest and been a threat. That's a crazy way to think about it, is that you have centers who are as big as they are now, with his hands as large as they are now, or as large as they are, trying to shoot these threes and shooting them at a rate as good as they are. It's incredible.
Yeah.
There's some Wiggins ended up on an all-star team. That's crazy.
There's some big guys. I mean, these guys are the smallest one of the guys listed as center is Jarrett Allen. 6'10", 243.
And that guy can't shoot a 3.
No, he can't. He cannot.
He cannot shoot a 3.
Well, to be fair, his season 3-point, his first career 3-point percentage is 18.9, so he can hit one. It's just got to get lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So their centers are different. They're athletic though. I mean, except for I'm going to say Jokic. Jokic is the least athletic looking. I mean, he has some athleticism, obviously, but
Looking's the way to say
he's
that.
he's 6'11", 284. The guy weighs almost 300
gets
pounds.
You.
Yeah,
Because you're like, this guy can't move, and you're watching him, and you're like, oh, he looks so clunky, and next thing you know, he's Euro stepping by you.
yeah.
You're like, what the hell just happened?
I think that has the Euro. Well, we won't talk about that now, but the Euro stuff has enabled guys to play differently now. I mean,
Sure.
it's different. It's changed the way basketball is played. To be honest with you.
Well, it's that bounce gather.
Yeah, it was
the gather. Once they designated a gather step,
yeah,
that allowed people to, well, because before you could move 2 steps, and if you had really long legs, maybe you were moving 2 meters, maybe 3.
Yeah.
If you were really tall, but now you can move 4.
25, 30 years ago, that was a travel every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no doubt. And then all of a sudden they decided, we're going to let it happen. Okay.
It's because the European players were like, what the heck? They were like, well, let me do my step.
Which European player was that, by the way?
I think his last
Sabonis? Arvidas Sabonis?
I think his last name was like Gugini or something.
Oh, okay. All right. So, and then of course the Cleveland, the home team, they won the skills competition. The 3 guys. Yeah. So I mean, I
saw that coming.
I smell collusion
conspiracy. No,
yeah.
They were the only group that was 3 NBA starters.
It's true.
You had Giannis, you had a G League brother and a bench brother, and then you had the rookies.
Gotta get the brothers.
I mean, the rookies are not terrible, but they're rookies. It's their first thing. I get it. There's nerves, right? And none of those were like heralded rookies, like crazy good ones. Right. So, yeah, the actual 3 starters in the league won. What are the odds?
So that's going to bring us to the Stave and Stone, the Best Slam Sports Show trivia question, brought to you by Stave and Stone Wine Estates. Are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Steph Curry, this was his first All-Star Game MVP. Okay. There are 2 players that have each won 4 times in their careers.
Okay.
They've been All-Star Game MVP 4 times. I want you to name them both. And then your bonus question is, which NBA franchise has produced the most NBA MVPs?
NBA MVPs or All-Star MVPs?
All-Star Game MVPs. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We good?
I know one of them.
Yeah, everybody should know one of them.
I know one of them. I don't. Yeah.
The other one's
the other one's gonna be a guess.
But the other one's trickier. So
I'm writing them both down.
Okay. Well, there you go.
And then what team has produced the most? Okay, I got it.
Yeah, got it. So the 2 guys that have won the most, 4. That's the record, and then the team that has produced the most. Okay. All right, you ready? We're moving on.
Oh yeah.
Trailblazers now 25 and 34, 10th place still in the West. They start basketball again tomorrow against Golden State. That's a hell of a way to come back from the All-Star game. But
sure.
So if you're Portland, and they've won 4 straight. Is that right? 5 straight. 4 straight.
4 straight.
4 straight. If you're Portland, what's your strategy for the second half at this point? You've accumulated some draft picks. You've got 2 in each round for next year's draft, right? There are now 4 draft picks. Are you tanking, or are you going to try and make a run at this?
Man, it's weird because they're teetering on that edge because they kind of need to win to keep New Orleans down because they will need New Orleans draft pick. Because if New Orleans it falls out of the top 15. Well, they have 1 draft pick anyways. But if they fall out of the top 15, then they lose a second one. So it gets to be really weird. So they kind of need to win a little bit. But unless you really I'd say you're on a hot streak.
Yeah.
You let them play. If this hot streak extends to 10, 15 games, well, all of a sudden you're going to start looking at yourself as being, in the 8th seed.
Right.
And now you're thinking, well, you can actually make a playoff push with this late season team and put together and things like that. Like you start thinking, well, if Dame comes back healthy, should we do it? Could you imagine the Blazers winning a title the year that Dame sits? That would be suspicious. But Blazers fans wouldn't be able to know what to do themselves.
Would they then be able to trade him and say, yeah, we're going to get rid of him?
Oh my gosh, I'd look at Dame and go, "Sorry, dude, we did this with backups."
Clearly,
you were what was holding us down all along. Didn't know it. You were in your your 23s a game.
Right.
But I just think that they should be. I think they should be looking. I don't want any team to tank because that's
Right.
boring to watch. But
It is.
also, if you're gonna go through all this to try and get good draft position, you can't win. You gotta stop winning. So I'd let this run play out, and if it fizzles out fast, and next thing you know, they lose 2 or 3 in a row, you start going, all right, let's call it a day. We're gonna prioritize rest, prioritize rehab, make sure no one gets injured. Give the Bruce Barnum speech in and out of here in 3 hours. Let's not no one get injured. No nothing crazy. We're not running ball screens. Just ISO ball all day. Like
So
that still is one of my favorite speeches. In case people don't know, just because Portland State went to play Oregon, and in the locker room he gave a speech to the players before the game. He's like, "All right, this game, no one get injured. Let's get in out here in 3 hours. Back on the buses. Let's get home." That's all he cared. It was a payday for the team. They did
that
not
is
care.
solid strategy.
It worked. Hey, we actually came out and took the lead for a sec.
Hey, that's all that matters.
Man of few words.
Yeah. Yeah, so the things I see that the Portland Trailblazers need to address is when we've been saying this for I don't know how many seasons now. Defense. Their defense is bad.
It's looked good over the last few games.
Better, you're right, but they are still getting outscored by like the fourth highest margin in the NBA, and their offense hasn't been as good because Dame hasn't been out there, and there's been no continuity, and CJ was out for a while, and so they're not a great scoring offense, mediocre, but they're a poor defense, and that's causing them some grief. And I don't know. You have to go out and get somebody that plays defense. You got to go out and get somebody that can shut someone down when you need them to shut someone down. And I don't know that they've ever really committed to that because they're still trying to look for ways to get better, and everybody seems to think that's offense. If we can get better offensively, then it doesn't matter how good a defense we have, which is a good theory.
Adding in Josh Hart was a fantastic move because he provides on-ball guard defense, which is something that we've lacked.
It's true.
Big time for a very long time.
And he's been good. He's only played 3 games, but he's been really good. 24,
he's been really good.
24 points, 5 boards, 4.5 assists a game. His turnovers are a little high. Okay, but that's we can deal with it. But yeah, no, 24 points a game. If you got a guy averaging Damian Lillard's only averaging 24 points a game.
Right.
So yeah, it's a small sample size, I know, but Justice Winslow has been good in his games.
Defensive guy there, yeah.
Yeah.
Ben McLemore's been stepping up huge, and he's a defensive guy. So you got Hart, Winslow, McLemore. Also, this is a really good opportunity for all these guys who you want a chance to prove your depth. You want a chance to prove yourself because you're a 8th, 9th, 10th guy on the bench.
Yeah.
This is it. You're Greg Brown, you're Trendon Watford, who, by the way, Trendon Watford has played fantastic too.
Yeah.
But you're Greg Brown, you're Trendon Watford, CJ Ellaby, although I think his time is done. This is your chance to show the NBA that you actually have value other than just being a practice squad member, essentially. So it's really interesting that these guys they're all going to get big minutes down the stretch of the season.
Yeah.
Use it. Be good.
Yeah, be good. Now, you got to be good. That's right. I was going to say, because Portland gotten rid of 2 of their top 3 leading scorers in McCollum and Powell. And Simons has been good. He's been a solid player. He's not, I don't know that he's your replacement for CJ McCollum. I don't think he's going to be that good. He's not.
I think as soon as Dame comes back, it's going to hamper him.
Right, exactly.
And not in the way you want. You want a 1-2 situation. You want a Stephen Clay situation, but that's not what we have. We have CJ was the closer to that.
Right.
CJ Dame or CJ Anthony was the closer to the Stephen Clay type situation. But Ant and Dame are the same guy.
Right.
You're gonna put a Dame and a Dame together. That's just or 2 Stephs together. That doesn't work.
Double Dame in it. So it's
double Dame. By the way, I listened to CJ McCollum has a podcast called The Pull Up. He's been doing it for like 4 years now.
Right.
But I listened to his last episode, and he was talking about he was picked up by New Orleans. Him and Tony Snell were traded, and he wraps up over the course of a day, and then he goes to the airport. And as he's getting there, he's doing an interview over the phone, and his driver pulls in, and they go, "Oh yeah, that plane," because it was the New Orleans team owner sent their plane to pick him and Tony Snell up. He goes, "That plane already left." He's like, "What now?" And he got off the phone, and he's talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's over Boise right now." And so he's trying to call Tony Snell because Tony is on the plane.
On the plane, yeah.
But Tony's one of the 6 people in the world who has a BlackBerry. So couldn't get a hold of him in the air. And
Oh my
eventually,
gosh.
they had to radio the pilots. And the pilots turned the plane around, came back, picked him up. And when he got on the plane, Tony was like, I just got on and fell asleep. And the next thing I know, I was in the air.
I I feel like somebody got fired after that.
Somebody got fired. I guess it's a pilot.
Well,
Like,
maybe.
well, because you have a passenger manifest. You know who's supposed to be on the plane.
Yeah, but I don't think and it depends. But I know that the pilots do that, but there probably was a player personnel person on board that plane who was in charge of making sure these guys get where they're supposed to go, because the pilot's not going to take them.
He didn't mention it. He just mentioned that it was the pilot, the flight attendant, and then Tony Snell.
Yeah, and it might have just been the flight attendant that was supposed to do that, but
But he said that was his first exposure to New Orleans.
They just, you better be on time. They don't leave without you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Can't wait to get that CJ McCollum Pelicans jersey.
They're pretty cool looking, actually. I'm not
the
gonna lie.
red ones are gorgeous.
Yeah, I like the red.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about something interesting. You ready?
Yep.
Not that wasn't interesting, but something more interesting to me. The XFL has announced a partnership with the NFL where they would collaborate on innovation programs. That's what they call it. Some areas of focus are going to be player health and safety. That includes mental fitness, officiating, rules and technology, and international football development. The league is slated to resume play in February of 2023, although originally when they quit, they were going to come back in 2022. Supposedly this year they're going to start playing again, but they got new ownership. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's part of that new ownership group. They're coming back. The XFL stopped playing in 2020?
Yes,
right?
they ceased operations in 2020
because of COVID.
Right. But also there were some rumblings.
Uh-oh.
There was financial issues, but they were just that. They were rumblings. Nothing had come out. Nothing had truly been reported. But there was a buzz that they were hurting already.
So the question I have is that if they're going to come back, why will it succeed this time?
The answer is that I don't think it will, and that's a very different tune than I had yesterday when we were pre-game and talking about this podcast, because I was like, I don't see a problem with it. People will watch it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Apparently everyone is more so I guess sorry, so I'll kind of go into what I wrote down here. Let me flip my notes back up because I still write them down physically. So the initial game in 2001, all right, and it's hard to find the actual viewership ratings from 2001,
right?
Because the stream ratings are so much like I can pinpoint each game, go through it, but the initial game 2001 had 15 million viewers. The initial weekend averaged 3.9 million viewers per game in 2020.
Yeah.
So one, it's and this is still kind of an off-season, not off-season entirely, but it's still kind of an off-season thing. So there's so much less people. Their attention is so much more divided. I didn't think that was the case. I thought it'd still be a very high viewership number. No, it is extremely low. But by that same token, back in 2001, there was only one game on TV, and that's the one you watched.
Right.
Most of the XFL games were not on TV. So I don't think it's going to work. It costs about $150 million to start it up. The last time they did it, it was about $100 million back in the day, and they lost $35 million over a very short period of time.
Right.
And this time they've lost about that, but a little. It was about $55 million or so, and they filed for bankruptcy this time. And now they did that to kind of protect their players and things like that, and allow them to receive unemployment benefits. But I don't see it working.
Right.
Because of those awful viewership numbers at a time when there is no football.
Right.
Like these games were at a time when, or what's it called, the actual dates of the games were at a time when there wasn't NFL football happening, or it was later part of the NFL season. It was actually kind of competing with playoffs, early February, that sort of thing.
Right.
I don't see how it's going to work. I don't see how it could work. The first game was 8th of February in 2020. So you're kind of in your Super Bowl glow.
Mm-hmm.
But how are you only averaging 3.3 million viewers? 90 Day Fiancé has been on for like 60 years, and it averages like 10 million viewers an episode. I don't understand. How much do people not care about it? Are they that much more into college basketball or NBA? I don't know.
Well, so there's some of the issues that you run into when you have a summer league is that you're going to run into the NCAA basketball tournament and conference championship tournaments, which take place for 4 straight weekends, right?
Yeah.
Over March all the way through March, from the end of February through March into the first weekend of April, and then you have the NBA finals, or the playoffs in general, which start taking place in May, right?
Right.
So you've got, and then it runs through June for the most part. So you've got this 3-month, 4-month period where it's all basketball. And how do you break away from watching your basketball team to go watch 2 XFL teams that you probably don't care about? Just saying, it's hard. That's tough. I mean, that's a tough spot to be in, I think. If you did it later in the summer and it was a late summer league where the only thing on was baseball, you might be able to get away with it.
Maybe. But then you're talking about you're playing the games in Birmingham, Alabama, or wherever you are, and
late summer.
Late summer is the sweatiest dudes you've ever seen on the field.
It's true. All right.
I'm not so sure it's as clean looking of a game when it's in late summer.
Well, for sure the close-ups aren't as pretty. So also
imagine the fridge in that heat.
They're going up against 2 other leagues. There's 2 other leagues, in case anybody didn't notice, that there's a league called the Spring League. The Spring League is a developmental league for the NFL. So far just played the 1 season, but Fox is their backer. That's their TV tie. They have a deal with Fox. So some of those games are on Fox or FS1, FS2. So they have a little support involved. And then, of course, the USFL, which opens play this year in April. It's April 16th or 26th. I can't remember. But they're starting play this year. Fox Sports owns the USFL. I didn't know that until I just read the research.
Exciting stuff.
They actually own it. So the USFL actually has their own network already built in. They don't have to make a network contract. It's there. Fox invested enough money, thought it was worthy of putting money into. When you have a built-in media package, that's a gigantic advantage. And for those of you who don't know, the USFL started play the first time in 1983. Played 3 seasons. We talked about it on here before, but they played 3 seasons. And then they decided at the end of those 3 seasons that the only way they were going to survive as a league is if they could somehow get the NFL to merge with them. So what they did was they decided they were going to play a fall season instead of spring season, starting in '86, and that didn't work out so well. The NFL basically shut them down and said, "Well, we're not really going to allow that." Then the USFL filed a lawsuit, antitrust lawsuit against the NFL, which they won. Said, "Hey, they're trying to keep us down," and they absolutely ruled in favor and awarded them $1. And
it's another instance of the NFL blackballing people.
Because of the antitrust rules, the damage award was tripled, so they got $3. But hey, it's not really enough to do anything.
It's about as much as the women's national soccer team just got.
Yeah, not really enough to do anything with, but I mean, $3. So somebody bought a coffee with that. But yeah, so the USFL had big name players when they came out. Steve Young was in the USFL. Herschel Walker, Jim Kelly, all these guys were in the USFL. They came to the USFL and played, and then eventually went to the NFL. The problem was also Donald Trump was in the USFL. The Generals.
I could see why it didn't work out so well.
He owned the New Jersey Generals, and he was one of those people that was pushing for them to merge with the NFL. If we do this, we can force them to merge with us. Well, instead, they all went bankrupt. So. And then they had the lawsuit, and yeah, there's that. So anyway, we'll see what happens this year when they come out again. It'll be interesting to see if they can even compete, because now you've got all this. You're competing with now also the XFL for airtime, but they're both Fox Sports. So the Spring League and the USFL are Fox Sports. So they're probably schedule it so you can watch them all, but. It's interesting. There's a lot of football out there that you can watch. Are you interested in football all year round?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Hesitantly.
If it's good.
I mean, if it's terrible, I mean, it's like, do I want to watch the MAC?
Oh, is it
all year round?
Is it like pizza?
No.
Is it like pizza? Bad pizza, still good pizza, or is it more like?
It is not.
It is not. Okay.
It's like pasta, where it does last quite a while. And you could still eat it pretty much cold or warm, but you definitely prefer it to be warm. You definitely prefer it to be fresh.
Okay.
So I don't know. I could deal with it all year round, especially if there's some exciting things happening, or if maybe they're talking about implementing the XFL and the NFL's partnership, talking about implementing new rules and
Yeah.
things like that, and new tech. And that's where they got the Skycam from.
Right.
Was from the XFL before.
Yeah.
So I'm cool with things like that. If there's a way that you're going to keep it spicy and interesting
Yeah.
across the different leagues, that's great. But if you're just talking about average football games, like
here's the rule I want to see implemented. If you're gonna have an experimental league, here's the rule I want to see implemented. Every time there's a kick, it has to be a different guy.
Ooh.
So yeah, your place kicker, you want to save him in case you need him for a field goal late in the game,
right.
because he's only going to get one kick, and everybody else has to kick the kickoff or any other extra points or all that stuff as we go. Every time there's a kick,
really
it has to be a different guy. So, just
I like it.
It's so extreme and it'll never happen, but it would be so much fun to watch. Because imagine if your team just starts running up the score, you start scoring a whole bunch of points, you get to 60 points, you got linemen out there kicking extra points. It'd be great.
That's a gem right there.
Right? I'd watch that.
I would watch linemen get out and kick. I'd watch an all-star game that was, all 22 linemen,
right,
just kicking field goals.
Right.
I'd be on board.
Well, we were going to talk about the NCAA basketball a little bit about the tournament coming up and the status, and we're gonna skip that. We're gonna save that for next week, because we're running a little bit behind. So we're gonna skip over basketball. Just remember, put a pin in NCAA basketball because conference championship games are coming. March 5th, the Ohio Valley Conference will name the first automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. Just FYI, that's when tournament weekend starts. So you'll know who's in for sure. Let's move to its second half of the show. So let's do that second half of the show. Here it comes if I can find the right button, because that's super important. Brought to you by Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Be sure to tune in to BossKittyLive.com for knit-alongs, exclusive sales, games, and fun. Go on to the BossKittyShop.com website. Get your DK and fingering weight yarns as well as stitch and progress markers. If you're looking for a gift, you can get them a Boss Kitty Shop virtual gift card and let them pick it out themselves. That's Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Yarn so boss, you'll knit your pants. Second half of the show, we're going to talk about a few things. Number one, let's talk about the Olympics.
Yeah.
It happened. It was not exciting to me. I did not care. I just am totally...
Most people didn't.
Totally indifferent. The U.S. didn't have that many great moments. There wasn't a moment where you go, oh, wow, that's a big deal, right? And,
yeah,
not that, I don't know. The time zone thing was bothering me because I couldn't watch anything in a real time, and I was always recorded, but I already probably knew the results because somebody's reported it already. So watching something that you already know has happened is kind of difficult, or if it did happen live, it was, for me, it's late, 8 o'clock. Or 9 o'clock p.m. is late to start watching a hockey game.
Right.
Because
it's very late.
Yeah. I can't stay up till midnight and watch a hockey game. I'm not doing it. So I would just watch the beginning of it and say, okay, well, 0-0. And then
this was cool.
Go to bed. So it just lacked a lot. I don't know if the next one's going to be in Italy. And Italy? That's right. Yeah. The next one's going to be in Italy. And so it's going to be closer. It'll be an 8-hour difference, something like that.
Right.
So it will be better, but
not great.
Not great. I mean, the problem is
still gonna have to get up at weird times and watch it.
Right. The problem is I'm probably going to complain if it's on the East Coast. If you just had you had an Olympics on the East Coast, I'd probably still complain.
See, at least you're willing to admit that, so people can rule out your complaint right
away. Why would I don't want to watch stuff that's 8 p.m. on the East Coast. I mean, or 9, whatever. I don't know.
What do you mean, a few hours ahead?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. 3 hours. I got to wait 3 hours to watch that.
See, but you have no problem getting up at 8 in the morning to watch an F1 race. Or what time did we watch the
5 or 6 in the morning? Yeah.
What time was the final race of the season? It was like 6 a.m. I think.
Yeah.
I think we all got up at 6 a.m. and watched that thing.
Yeah, I am on board. Well, I'm an early riser to begin with. I get up about 5 or 5:30.
All I'm hearing is if it's not convenient to you,
yes.
It ain't worth it.
Yes, that is.
and I think that's fair of the Olympics. That's exactly why I didn't care about it this time. Because it didn't fall within my scope.
And let's be honest, isn't that every sports person in the history of sports? If it isn't convenient for me, I really don't care about it anymore.
There's a point, a teetering point in your life around sports where either you're a fan who will stay up late to watch things. Like I'll stay up till 3 a.m. to watch a Duck game if it runs late, on the East Coast. I'll do that. But there are people who'll be like, no, it's midnight. It's way too late already. I'm going to bed. I don't care if it's the end of the first quarter.
It depends on what I'm doing the next day. First of all, right? How early do I need to get up? And
how important is the game?
How important is the game? Right? Yeah.
See,
No.
Once you start making all these qualifiers, you are now. I'm not gonna say a fair weather fan, but you are now a casual fan.
I suppose.
And that's okay. You can go upgrade and downgrade. I am downgrading to a casual fan. I missed like 3 Duck games this year, and then that's like the first time that's ever happened.
I'm not a diehard, but to be fair, I will also say this: I will watch at 6 a.m. just about any sport.
They put it on, I'll watch it.
Yeah, that comes on. It doesn't matter what it is.
Doing that crap.
I mean, Korean baseball, whatever. I'll watch whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, but just to have something to watch, because Lord knows it's just infomercial at 6 a.m. anyway. So if you got a live sport that I can watch, that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I'm not gonna stay, like you said, I'm not gonna stay up till midnight to watch this one and get up at 3 a.m. to watch the same team, just because I want to see every one of their games. I'm not doing that. If it's a championship game, okay, maybe, but not.
Again, that's a false sense of like commitment to a sport. It's commitment to a time frame, and if the sport happens to fall in it.
All right, my time frame is my time frame, and whatever sport falls in there, I'll watch it.
I hear you. That is a transition in life that happens for most people, where you stop being able to not being able to. You stop caring to just cater to sports teams and their time frames.
Right.
So, But see, even now, I'm 33 years old, and I still don't mind staying up till 2 a.m. Now, being fair, there's no sports on at 1 or 2 a.m., but if a basketball game runs till 10 or 11, I will stay up and watch it if I want to watch it.
Your only hope for a 2 a.m. sport that's live is
Olympics.
Asian Olympics.
Olympics.
Or a West Coast hockey game that's in 4 overtimes.
In 4 overtimes.
It's a playoff. It's got to be a playoff game because otherwise they'll go to a shootout and it'll be over. So yeah.
So I remember the Pac-12 After Dark when it started back in 2010.
Yeah.
Or 2011. No, it was 2000. It was 2010. Or no, it was 12. 12 was the first year of the Pac-12. Pac-12 After Dark games, or Pac-10 After Dark games, they would start at 10 o'clock Eastern. Is that right?
Yeah, 7:30.
Oh, no, it was 8:30 here, so it was 11:30 there.
Right.
So it would be 11:30 on the East Coast when it starts. So
that
means that game isn't ending until 2 a.m.
I think
at the earliest.
And I think the Pac-12 didn't do themselves any favors. I don't know if it was Pac-12 or ESPN that did that, that used that terminology, Pac-12 After Dark. That's a terrible thing to say, because you're absolutely automatically telling everyone it's going to be up way past your bedtime. It's going to be on way past your bedtime. You shouldn't be awake.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And also, it sounds like they're doing something naughty.
Well, I mean, their defense
they're pretty obscene. Yeah, some of those games.
Nothing.
But it sounds Pac-12 After Dark. Isn't that one of the channels that you got to pay extra for? So
right.
I don't know.
Comes a little warning in the bottom right.
Right. You have to approve it. You have to take the child lock off.
That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't mind staying up that late to watch it though, but I am not going to do it like routinely, and it's only going to be for a team I like.
Right.
I'm not staying up that late to watch the Arizona State game, because that's what it always is. For some reason, it feels like Arizona State play 30 times a year, and it's always at like midnight.
Yeah, it is. Why? Because it's 100,000 degrees even at 7 p.m. in Arizona.
Build a freaking dome.
Right.
Just
stop.
Put it inside. What are we doing here?
I mean, you guys are dumb.
Just imagine opening up your schedule for the next 50 years because you put a roof on something?
21st century, there is air conditioning, guys.
There is air conditioning, although you wouldn't know that living in Oregon.
Well, that's true. Well, you need it like 7 days a year, so.
That's Parker's Minute just
maybe 10, maybe 10. So I mean, it depends on your, yeah, right. All right, let's talk about these two guys right here on the screen. Let's talk about Rob Manfred and Tony Clark. And in case you guys don't know who that is Rob Manfred is the commissioner of baseball, and Tony Clark is the head of the MLBPA Players Union. So we're still in a lockout, right? they've been negotiating. They had a meeting on Monday, one on Tuesday. They're doing it again today. Both sides are not really giving anything. A little, I mean, tiny little bits in terms of when you're talking about, hey, this is 110 million. Oh, okay. Well, we'll give you $5. And well, wait, what? And then they said, well, we don't want 110 million. We want 115 million. Okay, we'll give you 6. It's that kind of stuff, back and forth. It's junk. And the negotiations are both times they've come back, they've negotiated and come back with new negotiations or with a new offer. The MLBPA has raised at least one of the things that they wanted each time.
Right.
You've gone up. That's not how negotiation works. You can't just keep going up. You have to.
Sure it is.
No, it's not. You're not going to get an agreement. Why did you ask for this if you really want this? Why would you come and say, hey, I want $7 from you, and then the next time you go negotiate and they say, well, we'll give you $2. Okay, I want $8.
Well, it's because they can.
Well, I know
do this now because all the other leagues have shown a way, and that is that the players, being the product, hold every card.
Do they?
Is Manfred ready to let these stadiums rot for a year?
That would be up to the owners.
Are these teams okay with? I mean, yes, they could field a team full of MILB players, but they got to come up, and you're not going to be part of the MLBPA if you're going to play in this league this year. And now you're dealing with a whole other thing. I don't think that many people. I think there's going to be people who cross it, but now you're getting a subpar product full of just terrible players because the few of them are willing to cross over and play. I don't think they're willing to do that. This is going to get resolved. I don't know by opening day, but it's going to get resolved. And it's because these owners are not going to let their stadiums be empty. Houston's just built that brand new stadium. Are they just going to forego 100,000 fans every game? They're still paying off their stadium. They can't do that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. If the players don't show up, there is no league, and it's going to go under fast. Because who's going to pay that? Who's going to pay Rob Manfred's salary? Where's he gonna get the money from?
I don't know. I don't think he's worried about that. I don't think these guys here are worried about that.
He's such a weird dude.
Well,
I can't stand him.
I mean,
not that I'm on the side of the players here, but I can't stand Rob Manfred. If this is what it takes to get him out of the league, this isn't a bad deal. Let's let Adam Silver take over. Let's move along.
I don't know. I don't know. So they're talking about fighting over minimum salaries is one of those things that they're fighting over. What's the minimum salary should be.
Right.
And the proposal from the Players Association is it should be $775,000 a year for pre-arbitration players. That's a lot of money. I mean, you're talking about everyone in your league making at least $750,000 or more. Every player.
Right.
And most of them more.
Sure.
So that is just to me is an egregious amount of money. It seems just ridiculously so player number 25 on your bench,
right?
The seventh outfielder, who's going to have 37 at bats this year, is going to make $775,000. Okay, that seems like a lot of money for nothing.
But it's a relative cut to what the teams in the league are making.
I get.
And you have to make that statement, otherwise they will. It is historically shown teams will take advantage of players.
Yeah, well,
they always will. They're always going to take advantage of that guy who only gets 37 at bats a year.
But don't
Screw that guy.
But don't simplify it. Management will always take advantage of labor.
Management will always take advantage of labor. Period.
If they can.
Unless
right.
the labor rises up and says you're not going to do that anymore.
Right.
You're going to pay us what we're owed. This happens. There's an entire industrial revolution and things like that related around this basic topic.
Right.
Yes, you're arguing $200,000 to already $500,000 earners.
Right.
But
still,
it's crazy.
What's funny to me is that because the league said, well, here's the pay scale we'd like to give you, right? Yeah. $615,000 for players who are brand new, and then $650 for players with 1 to 2 years of service time, and $725,000 for players with 2 to 3. You're not far apart. You're really not that far apart. It is. I mean, it's a big jump to get to 775. Yeah. But think about how much extra money you're talking about for the league in general. For one team, depending on how many young players you have on your team, that's a pretty big chunk of money. And I personally believe that you should get paid very little until you prove that you're worth getting paid a lot. That's just in general. That's just the world in general. if you hit 1,000 home runs last year in LA, and we trade for you, right?
Right.
And I pay you, $600 billion a year because you can hit 1,000 home runs, and you come over to my baseball park and you hit 7 home runs. Why would I pay you any more money? Why should I pay you that money? You didn't do anything for me. You were great over there, but you don't deserve to earn the money just because you did one time hit more home runs than anybody in baseball. Now you aren't doing squat for me. You're not doing anything more than I could get off the street. I could pull some guy off the street. You could probably hit 7 home runs.
Right.
I shouldn't pay you $600 billion for that. I think that's dumb. But that's the way the structure works, and that's the way it goes, is that what you've done in the past dictates what you get in the future, regardless of how good you are, up to a point, up until that contract ends, and then we have to renegotiate.
But the salary minimum only applies to 30 players. Only 30 players in the league make the salary minimum. Everyone else is negotiated above the salary minimum or has proven themselves above the salary minimum in whatever way. Some on merit, some on veteran status, whatever. But this only affects 30 guys who currently make the salary minimum.
Until you have to bring players up in the middle of the season. So yes, correct.
I wonder if that still applies the same way.
So
I wonder if you bring them up mid-season, if you then have to compensate them at that rate, or if you can.
It's probably prorated. I'm sure it's prorated, but it's still you're paying them at the same hourly rate.
No, I said at that rate.
Per game rate.
There's still a rate that totals out from that point on. But my point is, I don't know if that counts if you're bringing guys up mid-season. I'm sure that is a contract. You're signing a 1-year deal at this totaled amount. I don't know if that's going to apply the same way, because sometimes when they bring guys up, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't see a problem with what they're asking, especially when the MLB. But this is also another thing. MLB is constantly saying we're doing great.
Right.
We're doing great over here. We're making tons of money. The sport is fine. And they're like, okay, well, if we're doing great, we'll pay us a little better then. And they're like, well,
we're
not doing that great.
Here's the thing I found interesting. I'm just going to say about this whole thing in reading about what they've done so far and where they've met and all that stuff. This meeting was the first meeting that MLBPA Union Representative Tony Clark was at on Monday.
Right.
So how are you negotiating as a group when the one guy who's in charge of your group isn't even there? What do you have? What did Tony Clark have to do for the last 4 months of the lockout? 3 months? What did he have to do that was so important that he couldn't show up to one of these meetings or one of these negotiations until now? I don't understand that. Isn't that your job? Isn't that what you do?
Feels like a nitpicky complaint.
Rob Manfred wasn't it?
I have not shown up. I've done a podcast live one time. Still managed to do a podcast.
Understood. But Rob Manfred wasn't at this meeting, this one. So neither one of them, at no point in time have the two been together in one meeting in a room.
Well, I don't think Rob Manfred wants to be in a room with this guy.
I'm just saying. It seems like neither one of you wants to actually do this. And so you're trying to push it further down the road. It's a lot like Congress. You're trying to push this further down the road until the last minute, until one of you blinks and gives in.
Right.
And that's all you're trying to do, which is not going to be great for at least one of the sides, if not both of the sides. And it's definitely not good for fans, because we're already starting to impact spring training games. So all those snowbirds from Michigan, from those Yoopers that have gone
down in Arizona right now,
that are down in Arizona or Florida, are not watching baseball like they should be.
What do you mean the Yankees aren't playing?
That doesn't make any sense.
See, but this is a thing, that happens where they talk about, I guarantee you this falls in line with your kind of league conspiracy.
Yeah.
Is that the league is out here trying to push this agenda that these are whiny millionaires wanting more money.
Yeah.
And they're trying to dumb it down to this very simple level. So that way eventually they'll cave because they don't want to seem like jerks. And that's what gets around though. But it's a very realistic thing. If you are, it's the same thing with college athletes. It's the same thing with the NFL. It's, for the first time in a long time, all of these leagues are actually player driven. They do not care about coaches anymore. They do not care about front office staff. They barely care about owners. And by barely care, I mean they stay out of the spotlight enough to not be in the target, unless you're not the Redskins, the Commanders owner.
Right.
But for once, the players are in charge. The players can make these demands, and if they don't put up, then they're not gonna have a league.
Right.
And if they do have a league without these players, it's gonna suck. It's going to be really bad. It's going to be like watching the backups at spring training.
Right.
No defense, maybe some offense, but not everyone's hitting the ball well. I don't know. It would be not be something that they could recover from in a decent amount of time.
Well, they've been on strike before. They've had strike shortened seasons. It's not the end, but it's not ideal. And yeah, as a baseball fan, and I am a baseball fan. As a baseball fan, I would tell you that just shut up and play baseball. Both of you, stop arguing. The billionaires stop trying to be cheap, and millionaires stop asking for more money. And both of you just go play baseball. Just leave it the way it was, and just go play baseball. Because you played baseball last year with an agreement, and this year it's different. But this year is going to be different because why?
They're coming into this year,
right?
Knowing for the last 4 years that there was an upcoming negotiations and things like that to happen. And
right.
Neither one of these groups wanted to give in the many years leading up to this year.
But it's happened before. You've come to an agreement before, hold on. You've come to an agreement before, and the money was okay. But this time the money's not okay. And each time it happens, the money's not okay. But you still make more than most people in the entire world.
That's not the point.
I don't know. It kind of is for the fan. It kind of is exactly that point.
Exactly, and that's exactly
as a
what
fan
the league wants you to believe.
No, that's not. I'm saying your owners make too much money. You have too much money already. You got too much money already. You can afford to pay them more.
Make too much money
but you guys are really asking for something that you really don't need. You're asking for more money, which you really don't need. Both of you are asking for more money, and neither side needs it. You could just play the way you had the contract before last year and just go. But you are not willing to do that.
The better way to think about that is that the owners are asking to keep
more money. What they want, more money.
The players are asking to be given more money.
Correct.
The players are asking for something they don't have. The owners are saying no, they don't want to do that. They don't want to give you more than what they. The thing is, it needs to be. You can't predict the inflation. Money today is not the same as money 5 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
$100 million then goes different than $100 million now.
I don't think it does. Not much.
Again, we're talking about things that we don't. We're talking about a world we don't live in terms of total dollar values and things like that.
Well, yeah, so,
but that's exactly the problem is that you have to remove yourself and I have to remove myself from our shoes and how much. What we think is a rational amount of money,
right?
And get into the shoes of somebody who has made $500,000 a year for the last 5 years,
right?
And is now deserving of some sort of merit increase, or maybe not, or whatever,
Right.
You have to start. You have to. Think, your base level has to be thinking $500,000, not your base level's thinking what normal people make, and then looking up.
I just.
It's just tough.
It sounds like you're going to have to forgo one of the luxuries on your yacht, is what it sounds like to me. And I don't have any sympathy for anybody who does that.
That right there is what the league wants you
Why
to
do you
think.
keep saying it's the league? I'm talking about owners, too. You might have to give up something. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about one way. I'm not talking about one way. I'm talking about both ways. You owners might have to give up something luxurious to enable these players to play. You might have to give them something. The players, you might have to give up something luxurious so you can play baseball. That's the same. It's the same either direction. I'm telling you, one of you has to give up something, but neither one of you wants to give up anything. That's all I'm saying.
That's not realistic.
Well,
why would you take less money?
Why can't you
for something that you can charge more money for?
Correct. Why can't you just play baseball? It's baseball. It's a game. It's not like it's life or death. You're not making life-saving equipment. You're not out there doing something that's going to change the world. If baseball didn't exist today, it would not ruin the world.
Absolutely agree. Completely agree. As a matter of fact, if baseball didn't exist today, the world might be slightly better off in terms of how much free time we freaking have on a weekend.
Maybe.
That being said, let's not talk about that. Well, what if this and what if that? Let's just examine it as it is, which is that baseball is an integral part of people's daily routines.
Right.
Right. And it's a huge part of all of that.
And
it's still important.
Right.
You're discrediting it as a game, then discredits what the athletes do, then discredits what the owners do, and tears down the entire thing from top to bottom. It is a game. We all agree.
What I'm trying to tell you is everything that these two sides do, right, affects regular people. There are people that work for you that don't make $775,000 a year. There are people that work at your baseball parks, and I'm saying parks plural because you've got a spring training facility and a regular one, and they work for you, and they don't make that much money. And you're ruining their lives if you decide not to play baseball this year. You are going to absolutely take away all of their income because they can't afford to not go without a season of baseball. How are the nacho chip suppliers in the world going to ever survive if we don't sell nachos at baseball games? That's got to be a huge, gigantic hit. The hot dog vendors. How's that? I mean, how are those guys going to make it if we don't sell X number of millions of hot dogs every summer? That's all I'm saying. You're not thinking about everyone. You're only thinking about yourselves at this point. Otherwise, you would have committed to playing and making sure these people make money because they're the ones who need it, and you don't. Neither one of you really do. So,
but like by that same token, when any business goes under, obviously this is a much larger scale business, but when any business goes under, you hurt your suppliers, you hurt your employees.
It's true.
But I'm not going to sit over here and be bummed out about the fact that there's going to be 15,000 employees out of work across the MLB working in stadiums and things like that. When you have massive, and this is getting a whole other thing. When you have massive companies out here arguing to pay people minimum wage in places where it should be drastically higher.
Right.
It feels like the aim is super, super scoped out depending on how relevant you think or how important you think the event is. Just a second ago, you referred to this as a game.
It is a game.
To play a game.
You are.
And now you're talking about the livelihood of people.
No, different people. Those people aren't playing the game.
I know. But if it isn't for the athletes, then it isn't. Then you don't have a hot dog.
Or is it because of the owners?
It exists because of that.
Is it because of the owners that they don't have a hot dog vendor now?
The owner has to start the team, but then at that point you have to field the team, and
right.
if the team ain't good, you ain't gonna have a team that
way. So what you're saying is that every team that's ever lost money in a season has folded and gone under. That's not true.
Any team that has consistently lost,
correct.
Has folded.
But what I'm getting at is
within a decent period of time, yeah.
If in this next season you lose money as a baseball team because your team's not very good, you are still employing those people.
Right.
Okay. You didn't fire them all.
Token, where's your outrage when the Brooklyn Dodgers moved to LA?
Oh,
they lost all those people in Brooklyn lost their jobs.
There was outrage. Because
there was fan outrage over losing our team, but no one was concerned about the hot dog thing.
That's not true. Because the New York Giants did the same thing, right? In the same decade.
It's just one of those things where if you dumb it down to it's a game, then you have to dumb all aspects of it down. It's a game. Oh, you work for a game. Oh, you play a game. You sell hot dogs at a game.
It's different level.
It's all just a game. But once you start rationalizing, you realize how important it is that these players set a precedent for pay and for percentages of the incoming, percentages of profit. And then that should, in theory, and what's going to happen is they're going to raise the prices because they don't have to pay players more.
Okay.
And that's going to undercut everybody.
Well, we got to move on, but I guess the future topic will be, why didn't you negotiate for this year last year or the year before, the last collective? Why is it only this to this time and then we'll redo it again? Why didn't you say in 2020 when you or 2018 or 2010 or whenever it was you redid this thing and not think about 2022? Well, that doesn't matter. It's too far out. We can't worry about that.
That's what the NBA Players Union, when they did their CBA, I think it was 4 years ago, they said they would love to renegotiate every single season.
No, I don't want to do that.
The NBA, no, hold on. They want to negotiate every single season because every single year is different. Every single year you could agree to pay people more or less or this or that or change this. It doesn't. You have a lot more flexibility. The league does not want that. They want to lock you in at this price because they know your value usually goes up.
Well, they know that
if I can hold you here for a little while and then in 10 years redeal with you again, that's a better situation.
To be fair, you sound extremely one-sided. I'm just saying.
I'm trying to.
Okay.
I'm trying to because you sound the other side.
Well, no, I'm not. I am not pro either way. I don't care.
I said sound.
Okay.
I didn't say you are pro. I'm actually not pro players. I think they make too much money as it is. I think they all should make less.
What I'm telling you is the reason that the owners, that the league wants you to lock into a contract for X number of years is because they know if we do this every year, you'll ask for more money every single year.
But
you will not stop asking for more.
If you are successful every year, then your value goes up without me having to pay you more. There's a plus and minus to that both ways.
It's like every contract ever. It's a certain period of time, and this is what you're negotiating for. If you don't like it, then don't do it, and figure out a way. If you're the players and you have the owners over a barrel and you think that you have the leverage, why do you not just say we're not going to do this? This is going to be 1 year and 1 year only, and every year we'll redo it. And then if it doesn't happen, who's going to get hosed? Well, it's going to be the owners, right? That's what you're telling me. The stadium owners, those people, they're the ones who are going to get hosed, not the players. They've got all the money. They don't have to do anything now. But anyway, I don't know. That's a different discussion. But I feel like if you're not going to negotiate this out the way you want it for a substantial period of time, then don't even come. Don't even negotiate. Just do what you did before. And there's nothing wrong with what you got last year. It just isn't what you think it should be. And that's both sides, right? Are that way. It isn't exactly how I want it.
I think when you say there's nothing wrong with what you got last year.
Is there?
No. Okay. That doesn't make what you're getting this year right, though.
Well, I don't know, because you haven't done anything this year.
You're willing to say that last year wasn't wrong, so this year shouldn't be wrong
right.
either. You're comparing two different times. Last year was pre-negotiation. This year's negotiation. You agreed on the CBA. You knew that we were going to have one coming up, and you knew that it was going to change. Like all this stuff. Like it's not as easy as to say, well, what was wrong with what you're getting paid yesterday?
I think you should have
to more today.
I think you should have to perform first and get paid after. That's just me. That's the way I think it should be. Why am I paying you for something you haven't done yet?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We both agree on that. That is a very understandable thing. However, that's living in a world that's fictional.
I agree.
That's not how any of the sports work anymore. With the exception of your deep bench guys. Most of the time they do have to perform to get it. Their veterans minimums go up and things like that. But most of the time you have to perform to get any bump from there.
All right.
It's exciting stuff.
We have to talk about this again.
Yeah, we'll bring this up when they come to a deal.
Heck, maybe weekly, just for fun.
Weekly MLB argument.
Let's talk about Juwan Howard, the University of Michigan men's basketball coach and former NBA player. In case anybody didn't know that, he was one of the Fab Five guys. Anyway, never mind. He was suspended for the final 5 games of the regular season for his part in an altercation at the end of Michigan's 77-63 loss to Wisconsin on Sunday. By the way, everything weird happened on Sunday. Just saying.
Yeah, it was a weird day.
It was a weird day.
It's exciting though.
Howard hit Wisconsin assistant coach Joe Krabenhoft. And I just love that name. Nothing sounds more Wisconsin-y than Krabenhoft, by the way. Hit him in the face after a discussion between Howard and Wisconsin head coach Greg Gard. It became heated. After the game, they went to go shake hands, and Juwan Howard was upset about them calling a timeout with 15 seconds left. Apparently, they called 2 in the last minute. But Wisconsin called a timeout because Michigan was doing a full court press, down 15 points. With 15 seconds left. Michigan was a full court pressing, and Wisconsin had their backups in, and the coach says they were having trouble inbounding the ball. He wanted to get the 10-second clock reset, so he called timeout.
Yeah.
And so they could get organized a little more. And these are younger players that haven't played much, obviously. So I get that. I'm okay with that. You were up 15 points. Does it really matter at that point with 15 seconds? Nobody's going to beat you in that amount of time, I don't think.
Yeah.
But also, why are you full court pressing in a game that you're down 15 points with 15 seconds left? You can't catch up. There's no reason to do that. It would be just like the defense keep calling timeouts when you're down by 3 touchdowns with a minute left. There's no point.
But we always agree it's up to the offense to take the high road. It's up to the team that's leading to take the high road.
Sure,
but
it's
losing. You coach, play to the whistle, all that stuff. But the team that's winning. That's why it's called the high road. It's not the road everyone's on. It's the road you got to get up to, and everyone else will be somewhere else. So you've got to run this game out, and the team that's losing is going to try and mount a ridiculous comeback.
Here's my 2 things. My 2 takes on this. Number 1, it's a coaching moment for the Wisconsin coach to teach his younger players. This is what we do. He took a timeout to reorganize players that were confused. I'm okay with that, no matter when it happens, because it's a teaching moment. That's what he's there for. Okay. Secondly, Juwan Howard's defense of this whole thing was that we were talking, and someone touched me and put hands on me when it wasn't appropriate, and I went defensive, and I felt I needed to defend myself. If you watch the video, and I'm not going to show you the video, but if you watch the video, Juwan Howard is nowhere near a guy when he decides to reach across and slap a face. He's nowhere near a Wisconsin guy. Not even close. So at that point, he could have just backed away, but he didn't. He decided to go forward, and there's a substantial period of time, 2-3 seconds, before he decides to launch himself forward and slap at someone. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense because it's not congruous with what you said, which is, he touched me, and the guy touched you and you reached out and whacked him, I could see that. I'm like, okay, it's a reflex. I get it. But this was different than what he said. So anyway, there's some things going on here. You should never have done that. And then he basically applauded his players for coming to his defense and they threw punches, and 2 of them are now suspended for a game, along with one Wisconsin guy, and they should have been, because there were punches thrown by players, and they should have never been in that position. But your coach put you in that position, is what just happened.
So you are anti Juwan Howard.
I think he was extremely wrong in that at the handshake line. What the reports say he said was, I'll remember this, or I'll remember this next time, right? Okay. Well, that's a threat. Why are you threatening him? And then you talk about you feeling like you needed to defend yourself. You literally threw a finger in this guy's face and said, I'll remember this. Yeah. Okay, that's a threat right by itself. Why didn't he hit you first? Anyway. But he was trying to explain to you what he did and why he did it, and you wouldn't listen to him because you were just pissed off. You're angry because you lost. I get it. Right then and there at the handshake line was not the time to discuss this in any way, shape, or form. If you were angry, it should have been good game, walk away.
But if you agree that right then and there is not the time to discuss it, why is Wisconsin coach trying?
He's absolutely wrong too, because he knew he was upset already, and so But I get what both of them were trying to do. I get it. But neither one of them is right. You're both wrong. You should have not talked to each other. That should have been just a quick whoop and out the door. And then we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
It's a teaching moment for the kids in that even when you're angry, you can't lash out with violence. I mean, that's not teaching those young men anything good. So, I don't know. That's the part I don't like. It's that part I don't like. The part that you're angry about it and you confronted them about it, either way, I'm okay as long as you just broke and went away. It's the violence that was unnecessary, and
obviously.
And then there was not to mention that on that same day there was in the women's basketball game there was a body slam. Did you see the video of that?
I saw it.
What kind of intentional foul is that? And when is that okay? And then the girl looked like she didn't know what she was getting called for. And I'm like, how do you not know that you just grabbed someone, picked them up, and threw them to the ground, and it's not in any way, shape, or form okay?
So apparently that girl was trying to intentionally foul, and the refs were not calling anything.
Yeah, but...
So she was like, if you're not going to freaking call the stuff that you should be calling, the only way for me to get your attention now is do something absolutely ridiculous because you're not calling the obvious stuff.
Yeah, but you can't do that. That's a little extreme.
I hear what you're saying, but that's a teaching moment for the refs. Call the damn foul.
They're trying to get. They're probably. I don't know what the score was. I didn't look at the whole.
It was towards the end of the game. They were trying to get. They needed a stoppage in play to like regroup, but they didn't have any timeouts or something like that.
Oh.
So she was literally sitting there slapping her arm, and they were not calling the foul. And she looks at the ref and throws her hands up, and then grabs the girl, and then body slams her. And it's like, what do you need to see? How bad does this need to be for you to actually blow the whistle?
Right. Wow.
And so again, she went overboard with it. That's her frustration at the ref being taken out on another player. But damn that ref for not calling that foul, and damn you for going overboard with it. I mean, you just wrap her up, and you literally could just hug her.
Could have just held her.
Would have been better than a body slam.
Yeah, you could have just grabbed a hold of her and held her.
But she was smacking her arm, and they weren't calling it. It's like I thought that was pretty egregious. But either way, that's not excusable. You don't body slam someone. This Juwan Howard thing's interesting because teachable moments for the players, whatever. Juwan Howard's allowed to be upset.
Yes.
I'm perfectly fine with it. He can be upset with his players. He can be upset with the other coach. And he can walk down the handshake line and he can say, I'll remember this later. It's on you as the winning team to take the high ground.
Oh, right? It's on you both.
I literally said it a few minutes ago. I'm saying now. As the winning team, the other team's going to be upset. The other team's going to be frustrated. The other team's going to be annoyed. It's on you to be the bigger person always. However, you were right. There's a time and a place to talk about this. Juwan Howard was clearly pissed off. As soon as he came walking towards you and says, I'll remember this, you don't need to talk anymore. You don't need to say anything else to him because he's already upset. All right? You barely even need to shake his hand. Juwan Howard didn't want to shake his hand. All right? He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And apparently the issue stemmed from the fact that he tried to walk past him, and the Wisconsin coach put his hands up and held him there to talk to him. He didn't want to talk to you. He was done talking to you. Clearly, he was not in a good place mentally.
Okay.
Clearly, he was not in all this stuff. This is not defending him.
Right.
But you have to read the situation, both as the winning team and as the more seasoned coach, because he is the more seasoned coach, and go, this guy is not in a good spot right now. I do not need to try and explain myself to him. One, you don't have to do that anyways.
No.
Let him figure that out in the tape room later on when he goes, oh, that's why he called timeout.
Mm-hmm.
But just say, hey, and he says, I'll remember that. You okay. Walk on past.
Sure.
Move on down. Don't stop him.
I get it.
It's
hard not to do that because as a coach, that's what you do. You explain things. I mean,
But this is not a first-time coach. As a guy who's probably dealt with 1,000 other losing coaches before, as a guy who's probably not shaken a coach's hand because he's pissed off with them before.
Yeah.
Again, it's on you as the winning team.
I don't buy that.
Take the high ground.
I don't.
It always will be, because it's an emotional game. These guys have a lot on the line, one way or the other. What's it called? It's on you to just be a little bit of a foundation there and just move along. But once you did decide that you were going to explain it to him and talk to him,
yep.
Probably the thing you don't do to an NBA player ever is put your hands on them.
Well, so here's So what I'm telling you is you've watched it, I know, but when you watch it again. And how long is it before he strikes someone from that first contact?
That's not what I'm talking about.
I know, but it is a long time. It's not.
It's 5 to 10 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, you had plenty of time to back. You weren't even, like I said, he was back behind like 3 guys before he decided he needed to lash out. It wasn't that initial contact, and he reflexed and snapped and slapped a guy.
Still dying to know why he. And not that we ever will.
No, we will never will.
But the thing is, Juwan Howard isn't just walking around
trying to hit somebody. I know, right? No.
So something.
Although
not only just a loss.
Some
because
fans
he didn't reach out and try and do that to the head coach.
Some fans.
So
well, no, I don't know who he was trying to hit.
It was
an
assistant coach. So in my head, I'm going, what the hell happened with that assistant coach?
I know who he hit, but I'm not saying who he tried to hit. I don't even know what the swing was at.
It looked like he hit exactly who he was swinging at.
Kind of. But
to me, it did.
Yeah, and maybe he said something about his mom, and we don't know.
He's 2 feet taller than everyone else. He just reaches.
Yeah, he's got a really long. He's got a really long reach too.
He just palms his face.
Yeah.
So he definitely didn't miss.
It
was he was going for. I just don't know what happened there, because that seemed different than the earlier confrontation.
The other thing that I and this is the only other thing that I want to say about it is that he in his apology. He said, lastly, this is a quote, "Lastly, I speak a lot about being a Michigan man and representing the University of Michigan with class and pride. I did not do that." Well, if that's on your mind at any point in time, you would have walked away too, because that's not what you're telling your kids to do. The Michigan man thing is exactly, you ask any guy who's ever gone to Michigan, and that's one of those things they will tell you. You're supposed to represent the school with class and pride. And he didn't do either one of those things, and he set a bad example, and so then the kids started swinging.
Apologizing.
And I get it. But what I'm saying is that should have been the first thing that went through your mind, not the last thing, not the apology. It should have been the first thing, was, why am I going to slap this guy in the face? That's not acting the way I should be.
Just existed that way.
Right.
No mistake would ever happen.
Well, I'm just saying.
No one would ever learn from it. You have to have lapses in judgment to have a learning moment. This is a teaching moment for the kids. You talk about teaching moments. This is a teaching moment for Juwan Howard and his kids and the Wisconsin kids. Because of things boiling over, you've gained a valuable moment.
You did.
But you still have to apologize for it, because you had a lapse in judgment. I'm not going to condemn him as, people lose their crap all the time. People, what's it called? I yelled at somebody in the car the other day. Didn't need to yell. And as a what's it called? As a man of Beaverton, I probably shouldn't do that.
That's different.
But you know what I mean? Like, if you tried to prioritize the status before you went into any situation, you would very, 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 very rarely find yourself in teachable moments. Neither would your guys. You would just be vanilla. You'd be bland, because there would be no moment that you could learn from. This is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing in that you learn that the competitive nature of people rises up and gets the best of you sometimes, but you can't let it get the best of you every time. And let's be real. How often is Juwan Howard involved in some drama? The answer is not very often. Since he's been there, he's gotten in a couple arguments with other coaches. Yeah. Especially he's gotten in an argument with this Wisconsin coach before last year. So,
yeah, that's probably what
but I just,
part of that.
I'm not going to condemn him. I'm not going to condemn him his apology. His actions are a little freaking wonky, man. But if you make a mistake,
right,
learn that it's a teachable moment from your kids. Come out and apologize. Own it, which he did. He owned everything that he did. Set the standard moving forward, and hope that your kids, can learn from your mistakes.
Do you think the punishment was okay? 5 games and $40,000.
I love it. Depends on where you read. If you read one thing, it's like, oh, he suspended 5 games. If you read another thing, it says he suspended the rest of the season.
Right.
And the reason
it sounds big, doesn't it?
Is because it sounds longer.
It sounds like a punishment.
The rest of the season is 5 games.
It's just 5 games.
Michigan's press release said the rest of the season.
Right.
Big Ten press release said 5 games.
Right.
So,
how you want to phrase it.
It's 5 games is a lot, and they're a team that's on the bubble too.
Well,
and that's kind of the kicker with them.
We're going to talk about that next week.
It could be a death sentence for them not having him around, because he is an asset to them. So
all right, well that's something we'll talk about next week, is their position in the NCAA tournament. Right now, the projections have them in as an NCAA tournament team with a record of.
I think the last one I read was a couple weeks ago or last week, and it said that they were like one of the last 5 in.
Yeah, and they're 14-11, and they have one win over a ranked team.
Yeah, but the Big Ten.
I know. Yeah, I know. That's what you're going to hear constantly. Right. They have one win over a ranked team. Oregon has 2 on the road, back to back.
And then almost beat Arizona.
And then almost beat. Yeah, they can play with and played with Baylor.
And so, played with Baylor.
Yeah, but Michigan's in because the Big Ten is so good. Anyway. Yeah. We'll talk about that next week.
Well, East Coast bias. We'll talk about that next week.
So let's move on to crazy moments in sports.
Crazy moments in sports.
So crazy moments in sports this week is soccer related. The U.S. women's national team was playing in the She Believes Cup against New Zealand over the weekend. This was Sunday as well. By the way, everything happened on Sunday. This was Sunday as well. And so first half, 4 minutes, we're in the 5th minute, and I'm going to show you 3 things. It's crazy.
Early ball in that trouble. Goal!
Hated that guy's goal.
Oh, I know, I hate it. but he's. Let's see if they show the replay, because this is Michaela Moore of New Zealand.
Mats of All-Star games. They don't like the changes. Joey, one of my friends, hates the fact that it's not East versus West.
Yeah.
That's like a sticking point to him of the All-Star game. Not necessarily that the selecting teams is bad. He doesn't mind that. You could select East teams versus West teams, but he just doesn't like the fact that it's not East versus West. And I keep trying to remind anyone who has a problem with it that it's not, it's for developing. The All-Star game is all fun and show. It doesn't matter. And it's for developing the next generation of fans. And if you don't like it, it is no sweat off your back to not watch it. Yeah, you're going to have to hear about it. It's going to pop up on your Twitter feed. It's going to pop up on your ESPN app, but you don't have to watch it. Just like you don't have to watch the NFL one. I watched 0 minutes of the NFL All-Star game. 0 minutes. Because I didn't have to. And it impacted my life in 0 way to not watch it. The MLB one, I watch the home run derby, but I don't watch the rest of it. It doesn't change anything to not watch it. People take offense to things just existing. The fact that the All-Star game exists in a different format is an affront to some people. And that's a ridiculous notion. Just don't watch it if you don't want to watch it. I mean, I can appreciate, John Morant getting out there and dunking. I don't need to see Steph Curry shoot 14 threes.
Sorry.
That's an unnecessary
point.
But I can appreciate John Morant doing some windmill dunks with light defense, that sort of thing. So, that's kind of cool. But light defense, yeah. Sometimes none. Sometimes even just a guy standing in the paint.
Right.
He's a little more nerve-wracking than like a dunk contest.
Sure.
You don't want to run into him or something like that. But
jump over.
But people get really, really bent about the idea that it exists. And it's not the way they think it should be.
Right.
It's like, it sucks, and yeah, don't get me wrong, I don't love the All-Star games, but I don't watch it if I don't love it.
Right.
So people, if you don't like something, if you don't like 90 Day Fiancé, if you don't like the All-Star game, if you don't like anything, don't watch it.
And 2 things. I have two comments. And number 1 is, what do you mean by those people? I don't mean those people. And number 2,
almost part of those people with something.
and number two is, who doesn't like 90 Day Fiancé? Why? How can you not like that show?
Cassie's got me addicted at the moment. It's ridiculous. She keeps putting it on. I'm stuck on the couch, so I have to watch it.
And so, let me go back here for just a minute. And it dawned on me, this week when I was preparing for the show that, we hadn't shown any pictures of you ever on the show. We don't have you up in the corner. We're not live. We're not.
Oh.
So I decided I would show people a couple pictures of Parker. So this is Parker as a kid. This is, and if you know Parker, this is not far from the truth. I have pictures of him. He kind of looks like that. Had almost that same haircut. But this is Parker as a kid. This is Parker as an adult. So there's
more like Chelsea.
So there's just in case everybody wanted to know what Parker looked like. That's
time heals all wounds except these crazy eyes.
Except these crazy eyes. Let's get to the trivia question. The Best Lamb Sports Show trivia question brought to you by Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. Go to the tasting room at the Vineyard, the winery at the Vineyard, 3827 Fletcher Drive, or downtown tasting room, which is at 210 Oak Street. You can call them at 541-946-3750. That's 541-WINE-750. Or you can email them info@stavenstone.com for more information or reservations. That's Stavenstone Wines with Personality. The trivia question was, you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. The trivia question was.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I'll say it. This was Steph Curry's first All-Star Game MVP. There are 2 players that have each won 4 MVPs, All-Star Game MVPs, in their careers. Can you name them both?
Yeah, I'm going to name at least one.
Okay.
I'm going to try and guess the other.
Who
So
you got?
I'm going to go with Kobe and Braun.
Kobe is correct.
Braun is not.
Braun has 3.
Oh,
Kobe has
looking a little light there, Braun.
Kobe has 4. That's correct.
Okay.
And the other is. Go ahead. Make another guess.
Wilt Chamberlain.
It is not Wilt Chamberlain. It is Bob Pettit of the St. Louis Hawks. I know you wouldn't. Bob Pettit of the St. Louis Hawks did this back in the 60s.
Back in the 60s?
Yeah.
Come on now. You don't even remember that.
But I know the name. I know Bob Pettit. I just never watched any of his games. So.
Fair enough.
Old
and then the
classic
other part
NBA.
was which team has the most?
Get a guess?
So I was gonna go with the Lakers originally, but I'm gonna go with the Celtics.
No, it's the Lakers.
Is it damn? I should have gone with the damn Lakers.
The Lakers had 11 All-Star Game MVPs, and Boston has had 8.
Kobe's got 4 of them.
And Kobe's
Shaq
got
ever been
4.
An All-Star Game?
Yes, Shaq has been an All-Star Game MVP. So there you go.
That makes more sense. Damn,
All right.
I knew I should have gone with the Lakers.
Magic Johnson's won a couple, and I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So anyway.
Dagnabbit.
Yep. So there you go. That's the extent of that. I know, right? But you gotta. I don't know. So here's my music. How come it's not coming on?
I don't know. It's important.
I hit the button. We're going with the funky music for this one.
I like the funky music.
I know. I think it's great. But anyway, so that's the end of the show for today. We're gonna be back next week, which is March the 2nd. That's already March. We're gonna have NBA and NCAA basketball. We'll cover the NCAA basketball and kind of preview where the teams are in terms of the NCAA tournament, conference tournaments coming up. We'll talk a little bit about the NHL some more as they approach playoff time as well. We're also going to do an F1 preview next week.
Ooh,
we're gonna talk about new cars.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna talk about new colors. We're gonna talk about new drivers. We're gonna talk about a new race director, and we're also gonna talk about drivers on new teams.
Well, I like that.
Right. So we're gonna talk about how we see this playing out. Well, not that we're any good at it, because there's no one that could have predicted last year's one lap race for the championship. But that might be why we have a new race director. But we'll talk about that next week. Again, we're streaming on YouTube every week. We're on Twitter @LambSports. We're on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show. You can email us lambsports@gmail.com. We want to thank ESPN, the NFL, XFL, USFL, and the Spring League. Good night. Fox Sports, NBA, US Soccer, NBC, Team USA. And, of course, our sponsors, the Range in Yakima, Boss Kitty Yarns, and Stavenstone Wine Estates in Hood River. This has been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lonely Tree Media, LLC. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.